great to be here with everybody. I hope you've had just a wonderful day. And thank all of you guys for spending your time on here because this is so important. When we think about planning for a child who has a disability, really at the end of the day, it's on you, the parents, the guardians, the grandparents, to kind of figure out the maze of what needs to be done so that we can make sure that we have a really good, secure plan in place. And that's why I love being here with you today. We're also going to be talking about special needs trust, and we're going to talk about first party trust. A first party trust means it's the first party, it's my money. So if I had a first party special needs trust, it was my money, money that I made, money that I got from a settlement. If it's a third party trust, that means it's somebody else's money. It's a third party's trust. That's often what we use if it's like the parents' money. We're trying to use that to benefit that child who has a special needs. That's really important because there's different rules about where the money can go when the person who has a disability passes. So what is a special needs trust? I kind of talked about it and said this is a solution, but it's really special needs trust is to supplement whatever services and benefit the beneficiary is already receiving. So it's really our government acknowledging what the government provides is not enough. There's gaps. And so it's a way to say, we're going to encourage people to leave money to children who have disabilities to fill in those gaps. We really, so I just talked about ways we can get around this, but I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that that trust is set up prior to the parents passing so that we can use a third party trust and we can make sure that if the child who has a disability passes away, it goes down the family line. Also remember, we can have a special needs trust that maybe parents set up, but aunt can give money to it, grandparents can give money to it. So it's not unusual that I'm setting up one trust that is getting funds from more than just parents. And sometimes that's what happens. A very well-meaning aunt says, oh, I want, my nephew DJ to have this. She doesn't realize that she's actually, messing that up. So important for us to really know and understand. So this is actually language right out of a special needs trust. It's designed, and please know we can interchangeably often use the word special needs or supplemental needs trust. They're designed to prevent financial resources to remain available to assist a disabled individual who receives or may receive in the future Medicaid, SSI, mental health, disability benefits. They also protect the trust from immediate evasion by the state Medicaid to reimburse for public treasury for the provision of benefits. So if I get medical assistance, this type of trust doesn't need to pay back medical assistance typically, particularly if it's a third party trust. Again, there are different types. So a first party trust, third party trust. So first party again is it's my money. So that's more likely I receive a cash settlement from a personal injury. I worked and now I have a disability and I have that money. That first party trust, I can set it up. That money is then not considered available for my benefit. But when I pass away, the state's going to recover against them. Third party trust, that's a third party setting it up. It's a third party's money. So if I'm setting this up for my child, it's my money. It's a third party. I can set it up for my child, and then my child can use the money. If they don't use it, it can go down to whoever I want to be the beneficiaries. Pooled trusts are wonderful things so that we're pooling people's money together. And often what happens with them is that some of that pooled money, then it's usually used just kind of like a first party trust. It's usually the person's money. And what happens is across the nation, often with a pooled trust, some of that money needs to stay in there for the benefit of other people who have disabilities or be paid back to the state. So examples of a first party special needs trust. The settler, the maker, the person that does it also be called a grantor, is that person with a disability. It also can be set up by his or her parent, grandparent, or a guardian of the court. The primary beneficiary is typically that person who has a disability, and they really, in most states, have to be the sole beneficiary. So I can't set up a special needs trust for the benefit of 3 people. I can't give other options of like income rights to a sibling or something. It really has to be just for that person who has a disability. A trustee can be any individual or professional, but it cannot be the person who's the primary beneficiary who has the disability. So it can be a sibling, can be a corporate trustee. Now the funding comes from the assets of that person who has a disability. So that's what we mean by a first party trust. There are parts of the law that make this more difficult. There is no additional funding to a special first party special needs trust after somebody's 65. That's true across the nation pretty much. As I talked about, it must be for the sole benefit of the person with a disability. Paying for food and shelter. We have, an in-kind, an SSI in-kind support and maintenance penalty. Now I have to tell you guys, some of this stuff in here, the maintenance and support penalty, these things are getting better. If anything with this area law, it's getting better. So it used to be food, clothing, and shelter. They got rid of clothing. And now they're just about, this fall, they're going to be getting rid of food. Also, this in-kind support and maintenance, it used to be this calculation that was based on everybody. We're going to, a calculation that's more, it's just a third. Like it's just a third. So there's some good parts of the law that I don't want to get into too much. Now, a third party special needs trust, which is what most of you, if you're on here, you're worried about your child who has a disability, you want to be setting up a third party special supplemental needs trust. And this is set up by somebody who is not the person who has a disability. But the primary beneficiary is going to be that person. The trustee can be any individual or professional, but if you're on here and you're a parent of a child with a disability, typically we're going to make you the trustee. Now, there might be money in that during your life. We might fund it at your death. That's going to be individual that we talk about that, but you're going to be your own trustee. Then you're going to determine who else is a trustee. Is it a corporate trustee? Is it a family member? Are the two working together? Just so you know, we always want a family member or somebody besides a corporate trustee to be able to fire a corporate trustee. Corporations are bought and sold. We have banks who are bought out. So we always do want some non-corporate trustee involvement, even to make sure that corporate trustee is doing a good job. The source of funding can be anybody but the person with a disability. And so it's not unusual that more than one person would be using this type of trust. It's really unlimited, the amount of money that can go into these special needs trusts. Now, when you pass away, they become irrevocable. And we're going to be paying the tax at higher rates. So we want to think about how much money we want in this type of trust. And that's why in the beginning I started talking about, we really want to spend some time thinking about, we can't figure it out perfectly, but we want to spend some time thinking about how much money is this child who has a disability really going to need, based on what we know now, based on the future. And we want to fund it with that amount of money, not necessarily anything else. If we send money out for stuff like shelter, that could affect their SSI. That's why it's really important that our trustee knows that. Two, I'll reiterate, the food or shelter is the law today, so I kept it in here, but food is going away. So very, very soon it will just be shelter. And very soon, figuring out that in-kind support and maintenance penalty is going to be much easier. Receiver of the assets of the account on the death of the person, whoever's named in the document. And we can change that. So it can be siblings, it can be their kids, it can be their spouse if they have a spouse. It's really kind of up to them. Now, one of the things I didn't spend too much time on is, the summary of our wishes, which I do think is the thing that we offered to you when you signed up to get a copy of it for free. I think it's a really, really important document. We help our clients fill it out, but it's not something legal. It's something you can fill out. It basically says, hey, what do I need to know about this person? So, if you pass away and your child has autism, I should know not to take them to Walmart to buy clothes for the funeral because, sensory, that's not going to be the best thing. So what does a person like to do if they're upset and you're not there? Did you get pizza every Friday night? What pizza paste do they like? Like stuff like that. So I can't tell you how important I think the summary of our wishes is. And it's what Jim said at the beginning, kind of separates us, but we're not the only law firm across the country. It's something that we spend our time, that we really want to be able to do this. And we have spent a lot of time in the last year actually updating our form and making us better. And so that's something that we're happy to provide to you, and I think was offered to you as a free giveaway for attending this event.
The portion of this presentation on trust and estate planning for families with a special needs child by Julianne E. Steinbacher, Esquire, was brought to you by Financial and Life Planning Summit for Parents of a Child with a Disability, hosted by James Lang, CPA attorney. For more information, go to disabledchildplanning.com.